Topping the news now at 5:30, a measles outbreak is growing across the country. An unvaccinated child has died in Texas. That is the first death from measles in a decade. I'm joined now by Dr. Thomas Russo, an infectious disease expert at UB's Jacobs School of Medicine. Dr. Russo, thank you for coming in. Let's talk about what is measles. If you look up what measles is, you generally just see a rash, but explain exactly what's happening there.
Measles is caused by a virus, and people have forgotten, because we haven't seen a lot of measles since the advent of vaccination, how serious an infection this could be.
And it spreads quickly to others who also have measles if you're unvaccinated. Talk about that a little bit.
So measles claim to fame, it's extraordinarily infectious. So if there is 10 people that don't have immunity against measles and are exposed to an infected individual, 9 of them will get infected.
Wow. In Texas, we're seeing a decently large community, unvaccinated mainly, get measles, and it is spreading. There are hospitalizations, and now we know a school-age child has died from that. What is the #1 thing people can do to protect themselves against measles?
It all starts with vaccination. We have a great vaccine against measles. A single dose will afford 93% protection, and some individuals may not respond to that first dose, so that second dose gets us up to 97%. But I think it's important for people to realize that because it's so infectious, we need 95% of the population to be immunized to confer what we call herd immunity. And this is really important for measles because it's a live vaccine. And because if it's a live vaccine, there's certain children and individuals that are immunocompromised that cannot get vaccinated. So by getting vaccinated, not only do you protect yourself and your child, but you protect those that are unable to get vaccinated.
Interesting. Any issues here in Western New York with measles?
The good news is, so far this year, we haven't had any measles cases. We have a pretty good level of vaccination here in New York State. However, we've had measles cases in the past, and it's important for people to realize that even if the state overall is above that 95% level, which New York State is according to CDC, that there could be pockets where there's lower vaccination rates, and if measles is introduced there, off it goes infecting people.
Okay. Measles, how does it turn from what we see as a rash to something that could hospitalize someone and then ultimately take someone's life?
Measles starts what we call the 3 C's, a flu-like syndrome, and you get a combination of cough, coryza or runny nose, and conjunctivitis packaged together with fever. After a couple of days, you get that rash that everyone's seen many pictures that starts at the scalp and works its way down. But I think what fewer people realize is there's some severe complications of measles. 1 of 20 children that are infected will get pneumonia, which could be potentially life-threatening and often requires hospitalization. And 1 out of 1,000 get infection in the brain or encephalitis, which often results in a very bad outcome.
Could someone have lasting impacts after getting measles that could potentially last through their lifetime?
There is an uncommon complication, particularly if you get measles in the first 2 years of life, called SSPE, where individuals will manifest 6 to 8 years later a neurodegenerative disease that affects the brain that's inevitably fatal. Other than that complication, most of the consequences of measles are in the more immediate period, but obviously if you get an infection of the brain acutely and you do survive, there's almost always consequences.
Yeah. You generally get your vaccination when you're a child. If someone is out there as an adult saying, I didn't get it for whatever reason, can you get it as an adult?
You can get it as an adult, and if you're not sure whether you've been vaccinated, and that's the case for many people, right? You might check with your parents, your physician if they're still around. Sometimes school records could determine if you've been vaccinated. But if there's uncertainty and you're an adult, and particularly if you're in a high-risk group, it's best to go ahead and get that additional shot. There's no downside from getting an extra measles shot, even if you previously received a couple of shots and were unaware of it.
All right, Dr. Russo, thank you so much. Great information. Appreciate it.
Great to be with you.